evening. It's Tuesday, the 21st of July, and I'm delighted because hot off the press, we have Susannah Hockham's A Moment in. Move your book over
This is
slightly. There we go. Moment
There
in
we
the
go.
Maldives. Lovely. Have you been there?
I haven't. There's a spoiler. I haven't,
Oh,
but
research,
I'm
tax
hoping to
tax
raise enough.
deductible research.
Yes,
So
I'm hoping to raise enough funds.
this came out last Wednesday.
It came out on the 2nd of July,
Oh, okay.
so beginning of the
So,
month, but the
okay.
ebook has been out since beginning of June. So the
How,
paperback came out on the 2nd of July.
how exciting. How exciting. Your first baby. But you
My
do other
first.
things as well. So we will talk about that. You do other things. But this is another in the series of Tell Us About Your Books. And it's lovely having a real live author because so far I've been talking about other people's books without them being here, which is handy because it gives them promotion, but it's always lovely to have the author because then they can read. I don't feel I can really read without their permission, really read an extract, which I could
Ah,
do
I get
because they're on the look inside. Um, so tell us, we will be doing an author spotlight at some point, I think, when you come back. But tell us how you got your idea for this book, because with the author spotlight, we talk about your journey from the first thing you wrote up to what you're working on next. And we touch on briefly your books in the process. But tell us how you got your. And I will be doing this in some form. But I know when I go to festivals, invariably someone in the audience will go, "How do you get your ideas?" And the authors will usually say everywhere: newspapers, listened conversations, a dream. It just came to me, or something a friend said, or a friend suggested I write about this. So, how did you get the idea for this? Actually, can you read the blurb so we get a feel for
I
the
can.
book?
Yes, I'll read the
And
the
then,
blurbs.
yes,
So
do.
okay, so at your lowest ebb, you can either sink or swim. Marketing executive Cassie's summer hasn't exactly gone to plan. Jilted by her loving fiance in front of her family and friends, she can't get a refund on her expensive honeymoon to the Maldives. Trying to make the best of it, she decides to go on the week away solo. Investment broker Tom has had an equally dire year. His perfect life imploded when he caught his girlfriend and best mate having a sleepover in his bed. Needing to get away, he holds up in the Maldives to bury his head in work. Finding themselves island neighbours, Cassie and Tom are both emotionally bruised, with romance the last thing on their minds. But fate has other ideas. And after an awkward first meeting, ripples of attraction between the pair turn into a passionate tidal wave. But this is just a holiday fling, right? No strings, no expectations, and no problem when it's time to go home. But a
And
week is a long time in the Maldives.
oh, how fantastic! And how did you come about the we won't necessarily go in order. How did the title "A Moment in the Maldives"? How did that come about?
I just really love the alliteration. The title probably came about quite early on, actually. And I think initially I thought it was just going to be a working title because I knew the Maldives, the setting of the Maldives was going to play a big part in it. It's almost a third character.
Mm.
So I wanted it to be really escapist, and I wanted that to be really obvious from the look of the book and also the title itself. So I
Mm.
didn't want there to be any doubt about the setting and what kind of book it was. I was
Mm.
going for a proper escapist,
Right.
switch off holiday romance,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
absolutely, very indulgent.
Mm.
So yeah, so I suppose I thought, that's the kind of thing I would love for to be open for everybody, a moment in the Maldives or wherever your idea of a tropical island might be. So that was my thinking behind the header, the title.
So why did you choose the Maldives? Just somewhere. I mean, it sounds when you see pictures and holiday programs, and it just looks so beautiful. Is it
It
somewhere
was
you've wanted to go to, or why pick that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's always somewhere that I've longed to go. Haven't actually had a chance to yet. I do say yet because I do fully intend on going. It's on my bucket list. But
Yeah.
I mainly it came about because during lockdown, this is when the kind of the idea came about.
Mm,
We, as a family, were sitting watching loads of YouTube videos about lovely tropical islands because we couldn't leave the house. So the Maldives was one that was really popular because there, I mean, I'm sure this is true of all of the lovely tropical islands that you can visit across the world, but we basically fell upon these amazing videos filmed by various people who'd been there in the past. And and then there was lovely drone footage, and then you could see all these beautiful waterside and water sort of set up villas, and just like you say, it's paradise. It really is, and it really did help us as a family to kind of remove ourselves from the immediate confines, literally, of our living room that we weren't allowed to leave at that point, and
right.
escape. And just basically kind of take ourselves off. And I suppose I just then thought, what if I took that idea further and then actually created a world for myself in within that, because it
Mm,
really resonated with me, and I loved looking at the images, and I longed, as we all did, to put ourselves in that
mm.
position, but we couldn't.
Wouldn't it be awful to have been stuck there for several
Oh
months?
yes, absolutely. I know. Yeah.
Until the money, I don't know how expensive or otherwise it is, but I get the impression it's not a terribly cheap
No,
way. So,
not yeah. Exactly.
um,
Yeah. So that was the idea, was that I create a world, create characters that
mm,
are there for different reasons, and they go there to escape their problems, but their problems are still there. However, they then find someone else who has gone through something similar to identify with.
mm, fantastic. And how did you decide where to start? Because it sounds like from the blurb, it sounds like you start because we're always told to start with the action. So, do would you read us the first chapter or so?
I can read you basically, yes. If I read you the very first chapter, which was originally going to be a prologue, and you'll
Okay.
kind of see why.
Okay.
So the first chapter, all right, I'll just read it and you can see why. Something was wrong, very wrong. Approaching the beautifully decorated function room, Cassie became aware she was being watched, but not the kind of attention a woman might expect on her wedding day. More like the attention a person might receive when they had a massive pulsating spot on the end of their nose.
Mhm.
And I don't want to look, but I can't tear my eyes away kind of fascination.
Mm.
She surveyed the sea of openly curious faces, the array of colourful fascinators wobbling as one as they turned in her direction, like a gathering of exotic birds. They gawked at her through the gap between the ornate double doors. A strange hush had fallen, an almost salacious anticipation. To her left, her father tensed, then went into protective mode, abruptly stepping across, blocking her from view. Cassie blinked and had a mad, hysterical urge to laugh. She felt like a VIP being shielded from fans by security. Almost at the same time, her maid of honor, Sophia, appeared. She skidded to a halt in front of them, her eye-wateringly expensive, spindly skyscraper heels carving a deep groove in the carpet. Righting herself, she grappled for the brass handle behind her, yanking the function room door firmly shut. The three of them were alone again in the atrium for now. Hun, Sophia sounded strained, out of breath, her usual loud, confident demeanour uncharacteristically serious. I'm so sorry. I tried to call you before you came down. Mark's not, he's not the utter useless. He hasn't. Anger made her voice tremble, and she trailed off, her French manicured hand making a fist, then reaching towards Cassie, but dropping before it made contact. She looked simultaneously livid and wretched. Cassie stood there statue-like, planted as if she was growing roots into the, now she had a chance to properly look at it, garish orange and purple patterned carpet. She gazed down, transfixed. It really was breathtakingly hideous. Why couldn't anyone see how mind-bendingly disgusting it was? Should she tell someone on reception? Almost to her relief, her view of it began to blur with unshed tears. She felt eerily calm, numb even. Her dad cleared his throat, and she dragged her gaze away from the psychedelic swirls. Glancing slowly up at him, Cassie's throat constricted, and the tears threatened to spill. His eyes swept over her face in concern, then his jaw clenched and his mouth pulled tight into a grim line. He looked close to murderous. Cassie closed her eyes as the wave of exhaustion hit. It was all too much. Her head was pounding and she just wanted to be back in her room, preferably in sweatpants. Mechanically, she started to pull out the pins securing her immaculate chignon, undoing in seconds the hours of hard work it had taken to wrestle her wayward mane into anything approaching chic and stylish. She was grateful for the temporary relief the loosening of the grips gave her. As her hair fell down around her ears, it felt like a metaphor for her life. She heaved out an all-consuming sigh, dragging it right up from the soles of her hellishly pinchy satinette Mary Janes. He's not coming, is he?
Wow. It reminds me of, actually, the blurb reminded me of the first scene in Friends where Rachel comes into the cafe in her bouffanted wedding dress. Because I can't remember what happened there, whether she'd been stood up, but
She'd
it
left, yeah. Rachel had left her.
right,
She jilted him, yeah.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
you started in exactly the right place, I think. Um, it's brilliant. I love the wobbling as one and the protective mode, and it's all very vivid. The description, and there's humour in it. It's the worst day of. It's supposed to be the best day of her life. It turns out to be the worst day of her life. And how do you, with so many witnesses, how do you recover? And you only know, I mean, presumably she would know everybody, but half of them are going to be her family and friends, and the other half are going to be his. And oh, poor thing. How did you
um,
come up with the names? How did you choose the names for your?
I do know. I suppose I was trying to pick names that were names that I liked. I mean,
Mm,
Cassie was deliberate because I love sort of Greek mythology, that kind of thing. So her full name is Cassandra.
okay.
So that was deliberate, and that comes up later on, actually, the way she was named and why she was named that.
Mm,
And Tom, I just wanted something really classically straightforward and sort of solid and, reliable, because that's the
yeah.
kind of person he is. And that, for me, that kind of rang really true.
Right.
So they kind of reflect their personalities, the choice of names as well.
Mm,
She's very kind of, she's more happy-go-lucky, and he's more kind of like serious and,
right.
troubled, but like basically squashes it and doesn't want to face up to what he's
Yeah.
going through, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and just gets on with life and gets on with work and stuff. So yeah. And I just, yeah, I suppose, yeah, once you've kind of picked the names, then you kind of almost try them on to see if they fit as you write the dialogue, as you get
Mm,
used to them.
mm,
And then as they kind of develop more throughout the chapters,
mm,
I realized that they did fit, because interestingly, I had different names originally for there's two best friends, one like her best friend and his best friend, who both feature quite heavily,
mm.
and originally they had different names to the ones they ended up with.
Okay.
So, and that was kind of because they didn't really fit, but I couldn't work out what was wrong until I suddenly thought,
Right.
actually, I know I'm going to change the names. And then once I got used to it, then that was obviously what the problem had been.
Right. Fantastic. Is this going to be a standalone, or do you think they'll what once you get to the end? Because a lot of readers will go, and presumably there is a happy ending. We won't, no plot spoilers, but anybody who gets to the end of a standalone, invariably, if they've fallen in love with their characters, they want more. Do you think you'll do more? Is there a plan for?
There is. I am writing a sequel as we speak, which the two main characters feature in, but they are not the focus.
Okay.
So the sequel is, I don't know, I'd say about 2/3 of the way through. And yeah, and that is, I'm so thrilled to be back in their lives and their
Oh,
world too, because I
yeah.
didn't want to leave them behind.
No.
And I'm hoping, if that goes well and that comes together the way I want it to, I'm
Mm.
hoping there'll be a third as well. But
Right.
that's more kind of in the planning stages at the moment.
And do you have a title for this second one?
I do, but I'm not going to reveal it as
No.
yet because I'm not
Okay.
sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I kind of know what it is going to be, but I'm going to keep that under wraps just for the moment
Yes.
because it's what I can say is it's not going to be, it will sound very different to the first one. So
Right.
it wouldn't necessarily be immediately obvious that they are a
No.
pair,
No.
but readers will know because they will see this, and I'll obviously tell everybody it is a sequel.
Sure.
So.
Sure. And who designed yours? Fantastic cover. Who designed your cover?
This is designed by, I'll hold this one up,
Yeah.
by Charlotte Clayton, who is a book designer. She's incredibly talented. I was really, really lucky to find her.
Mm.
I met her through a friend of a friend, a fellow author introduced me. And she not only designed the cover, she designed these brilliant bookmarks as well.
Oh, oh yes.
This one's of Tom. There's another one of Cassie, which is basically like the cover.
Mm.
There's up here as well, I've got these postcards that, if I can, you can sort of see those two
Oh,
there,
yeah.
are quotes from the book. And
Okay.
yeah, and on the back, they're lovely. They're actually, the way they've been designed is really clever. They look like, oops, sorry, they look like postcards as
Oh,
well.
yes.
So it's got the
Oh,
blurb on
nice.
there and
Yeah.
everything, like my details, and then there's
Yeah.
a little QR code as well
Right.
for ordering the ebook. So yeah, I was so lucky. I had an idea about what I wanted. I knew I wanted it to be bright and colourful.
Mm.
I'll hold it while I'm talking.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted it to be really bright and colourful. So
Mm.
you've got it wrapping all the way around as well. You've got a lovely, beachy scene and bits of saucy there. That's a discarded swimsuit. So,
Oh,
and I just love the colours. And I've said to Charlie, she's known as Charlie, Charlotte. I said to her the sort of thing I wanted, and it was literally like she'd climbed inside my head and basically just given me what I asked for. It was fantastic. So
oh,
actually, this is the Cassie one, the
oh,
Cassie
yeah.
bookmark, and
Yeah.
that also, like the other one, has the information on the back as well, which is really good. Um, yeah, so it doesn't look that dissimilar to the very early drafts because it was immediately what I had asked for,
Mm.
and brilliant. So I'm definitely going to be working with her again. So, which, I'm really looking forward to.
I think that's a good idea because especially if you're doing a series, you want them to be fairly uniformed,
Yes,
and
definitely.
it's
Yeah.
always easier to stick with the same person. Now, your day job is revolves around women's fiction.
Yes,
Do you think
that's
that
right.
influences why you've written a women's, what do they call it, book club fiction, women's contemporary novel, or just?
Not, I don't think it has really, because I think what I wrote, you say about where did I get the ideas, like how did I start?
Mm.
Um, I wrote what I like to read. So I basically, I mean, I read all kinds of things. I read across all the different genres,
Mm.
pretty much. But I would always come back to this kind of thing, the sort of spicy rom-com, but not always spicy, but definitely romantic comedy.
Sure.
And it's very much escapist, very much feel good, a bit of peril, a bit of a couple of kind of bumps in the road, but ultimately, you kind of know where you are with it. It's more about the journey, the emotional
Sure.
journey.
Yeah.
And I just thought I'd like to have a go at that. I'd like to see if what I can write, because I know what I like to read, but I could never quite find exactly what I was looking for. So I thought, why don't I just see if I can produce something that I
Yes.
know that I would like to read?
Yes. Because
So
you write short stories as well.
yeah.
Were you daunted by the fact that you then had to write something that was that much longer? Did you find it easier or more difficult or just a different beast?
Well, I actually started the novel before I wrote any short stories. So
Okay.
the novel's been a long time in the making. It's been
Right.
literally like 4 or 5 years, on and off. And I kind of put it aside and would come back to it and, kept kind of tinkering with it, adding bits, taking bits
Mhm.
away. And, I had it reviewed by few professionals here and there. I'm a member of the Romantic Novelists Association, so I
As
submitted
I
it.
am now, after our
Yes,
conversation the other
I heard.
day.
That's great. That's
Yes.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I submitted it a couple of times and had amazing feedback on it and really, really helpful. And
Oh,
yeah, so I basically I've forgotten where I was going with that now.
Oh,
This is a
yeah, we're talking about
menopause
different.
brain.
That's all right. Difference between short stories
Yes, thank you.
and
Short
novels,
stories. Yes,
because I
thank
do
you very
both.
much.
Yeah.
This happens a lot with me.
Oh,
This is why I'm surrounded by notes everywhere. Yeah, so I suppose it wasn't daunting because I just kind of started and I thought I will just keep writing until I kind of reach a point where I think I'm done. But
mm,
then actually, I actually found it really hard writing the first one because it changed so much since the first draft. And I kind of almost kept writing myself into corners and then having to come back and change it and then adapt it and then add
mm,
different bits. So just to go back quickly to the second one that I'm writing now, that
mm,
has an absolute solid outline. I know exactly where that's going, right down to which chapter and things like that. So that is a lot easier actually for me. I feel a bit more in control of this one. Whereas the first one, I suppose because I didn't even really know if it was going to be a novel. I
mm,
didn't know if it was ever going to see the light of day properly. So I was just enjoying writing it really and just seeing if I
yeah.
could.
Yeah.
And then getting a bit of feedback here and there just to see if I was on the right track in terms of what was, what people were happy to read or
Sure.
thinking it was only good. And then meanwhile, I suppose because I'd almost like opened the floodgates like creatively, I suddenly started to get all of these other ideas as well that would just like almost keep me awake at night saying,
Mm,
write me. And I'd be, oh, right, oh, but I'm doing this.
yeah.
So the short stories came about because I thought they are a great way to kind of exercise that creative muscle in a different way, like about different
Mm,
topics at the same time. And then you kind of release that over there and that's written, and then you can get on with the novel, and then, oh, I've had another idea, so I'll just get that one
oh,
down
I
and then
know.
I can get on with the
I'm
novel.
terrible. I'm a magpie, and I'll
Yeah.
I'll start something new and I'll write it until I get stuck. And I say
Mm.
I'm a pantser because I used to be a pantser, and then I do find that if I don't have any kind of form of plan, I do get stuck more often, and I just write more. If I know something further on, I'll just put more here, and then when I get to the end, I'll search for the more here, and then I can
Yeah,
fill in
yeah.
the gaps in between. Um, but yes, I do find it, at least even if I just have a one page of bullet points of where it's going to go, it's definitely more useful.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I would say the first novel, the Maldives, Panther, absolutely. I had no idea where that was going. I didn't know where it was going to finish. I didn't know, you know, the initially that first chapter that I just read to you was so long. It was insanely long and it was just so full of detail. I almost gave away everything
Mm,
right from the off and had to pare it back, pare it back, pare it back to the
yeah.
point where I was like happy with it. And I'd been, like I said, I had a lot of feedback and stuff. So the first novel was a massive work in progress for such a long time.
Mm,
But and I had such crisis of confidence about it, and at times as well, thinking, oh, is it good enough to put out there? And it wasn't for a long time, but finally I got to a point where I felt really confident in it. And I
yeah.
think what helped as well, going back to the short stories, is that meanwhile, while I was still working on the novel, I was published in the national press. My short stories were published, so I was thinking, okay, so if this writing over here is good enough to be published and people like it and they're reading it and it's been commissioned,
Mm,
then maybe this writing is over here as well. So that was kind of my confidence boost in what I was writing,
yeah,
basically. It was the
absolutely.
thing that gave me the faith in myself, which is what was lacking, I think, for a while, because I was felt like a huge imposter and how on earth why is anyone going to
We
read
all
what I
do.
write?
Yeah,
Which I know is a big thing. Everyone thinks that way for the most
yeah,
part.
yeah. But when it's your first, it's you're dipping your toe into a scary pond. But I think
Absolutely.
the publishing, I don't know. I see your posts a lot. Once Facebook shows you one thing and it then shows you. So I see you a lot on Facebook and Instagram, I think as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know when you're leading up to a book coming out and then the book comes out, you have to be everywhere. Um, so how far in advance did you sort of plan your campaign? Did you put a pre-order on? Did you start telling people that who you didn't know that you've got a book coming out?
It was probably in the grand scheme of things, like sort of fully fledged authors, they'd be probably horrified. It was very, very last minute. I did have a pre-order out, but only the month before,
Mm.
maybe 6 weeks at a push. And that was well, it was for both, I suppose. But, the ebook came out at the beginning of June. I think it was the 4th of June it came out. So I'd sort of started a campaign up to that point. I had help. I've got this amazing team around me. I am independently published, so my publisher was very instrumental in everything that everyone has, he's
Mm.
basically made it happen for me, made my dream
Sure,
come true.
sure.
And that's Chris Towndrow. He's amazing.
Yes.
And I had this lovely lady, Danielle, who's helped me out with my social media,
Mm.
basically helping me create posts, because it takes me about a day to create a proper,
Yeah.
like, post that looks really professional. And so she helped me out with those as well.
Mm.
So she was helping me in terms of what to post and when and things like that, as I was massively learning. It's a huge learning curve for me. As you say, first book, didn't really know what I was doing, just kind
Mm.
of hoping to get the word out there, hoping maybe if one person read it or bought it, that would be nice.
Mm.
Not making any assumptions or thinking for a minute that
Mm.
it might go anywhere, but just that I was just so, I kept having to force myself to stop and take a moment and say, look, you've achieved what you set out to, which was to get a book
Absolutely.
out, to
Yeah.
release a book, to write a book, to finish a book, and all of this is just the icing on the cake,
Yeah.
really. So it was, yeah. So it wasn't a huge, really intricately planned marketing campaign. It was
Mm.
very much seat of our pants kind
Well,
of
it's
thing.
it's
But
more than I do. It's usually, in fact, I tend to publish the book and then say, oh, by the way, I've got a new book out, which is definitely not the way to do it. So I need to be better at that. But as you say, it takes time to do all of it, especially to do the posters and this, that, and the other. So having help to do it is invaluable, especially help that you can trust and rely
mm.
on, and it's in their interest as well to push the book and make it a success.
Well, definitely. And I think, this all goes back originally to joining the RNA, the Romantic Novelists Association, meeting authors, finding basically like-minded people who everyone's so lovely and accepting and inclusive of everybody, whether or not you're new at this or whether you've been doing it for ages.
Mm.
And I feel like the whole time, when you ask for help, it's there, and there's always recommendations. There's always people who
Mm.
will, give you pointers and advice, and will read your thing, read scenes or read the whole book and
Sure.
give you feedback. And I feel really fortunate that I've found the people that I found,
Your
basically
tribe.
the authors and my tribe. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that I have found my tribe, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to throw two. I hadn't prepared you for this. Two questions. I don't know whether you can answer them, or you may think of something later. But it's something I don't specifically ask in the spotlights, because invariably you can just tell when an author lights up about something that's the best thing, and then when they find something a bit more challenging, then we go, ugh, like this. So, but I'm going to ask you, the best thing and the worst thing about being a writer, the best thing and most challenging thing about being a writer, or your journey so far, whether there's anything you can think of.
The best thing for me has got to be the writing itself, the creative process. If I'm so busy, I have a full-time job, I have a family, my writing time is few and far between. I have to cram it in between, doing various chores, my job,
Mm.
just weekends, sort of endless, routines and everything else in between. But if I ever get those precious moments, which I carve out, deliberately, because I know they're good for me and they're good for my soul, and I would do regardless of whether I was able to put it out in the world, because I just enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
I love those points where I'm lost in that story and I suddenly raise my head and, oh my goodness, 2 hours has passed and
Mm.
I've just been in this story to the point
Mm.
where I was living it through my characters.
Mm.
And that is something that I treasure, and I'm so happy that I get the chance to do that,
Mm.
that I create I create the chance. It's not like I'm not sort of, I feel like I'm making that chance for myself because I haven't, everything else is still happening, everything else is still going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, those moments are precious to me, and I absolutely love it. I just love the creative side, definitely.
And
Um,
challenges.
the challenges. So it's kind of a similar thing. I actually, as much as I love creating and I love writing, I do sometimes find I almost stand in front of myself. I stand in my own way because maybe I'm about to start a new chapter and I haven't quite figured out how that's going to go yet. Or maybe I know I'm about to write something that's a little bit more kind of thorny or, tricky to write.
Mm.
Um, and I'll sort of put it off because I actually love the editing side.
Do
So
you?
I love going back over and editing.
Right.
So for me, the challenge sometimes is, well, two things, I suppose. Firstly, finding the time to write.
Mm.
And secondly, writing and getting it out, just getting it down on paper without then correcting myself and correcting my
Right.
paragraphs and editing myself to the point where I lose the thread of where I was going with it in the first
Mm.
place. So I
Mm.
have to I've almost had to train my brain to just write. Don't worry about what it looks like right now. Don't worry about what it
Yeah.
says. Obviously,
Yeah.
you want to be going in a certain direction, but you have to
Sure.
just get it down on the page. And
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
challenge I find. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's interesting you say that because editing is my day job, and I love editing other people's work. It could be pretty much anything. And but when it comes to my own, it's kind of. But then quite often I've written something so long ago that I don't remember writing it. I know I have written it, but it's almost like it's somebody else's work, which makes life easier. So
Mhm.
that's what works for me then is if I shouldn't berate myself that I haven't gone back. The last project was the sixth in this series, and it's only a novelette even. It's not even a novella, called Henry Goes to the Cinema, The Case of the Rogue Llama. And Donna Morfitt and I were chatting about ages ago about what we were working on next, and I said, "Oh, I've got to go back through the sixth Henry." And she said, "Oh, have you come back from your editor?" I said, "Oh, yes, it came back probably about a year ago, and this was only late last year." And I thought it was probably late 2024, and it was November 2023. So
Oh,
I've had it for
wow.
getting, and it's only about 19,000 words. So I have no excuse for me not having gone back through it. But I think we are, if there are other things that I work from deadline to deadline to deadline. So because I don't set deadlines for my own work, they always tend to go to the bottom. And so I need to,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
better.
see. I respond well to deadlines. I have to almost set myself deadlines to get things done because, I mean, I work in a very deadline centric industry. I work in publishing, in magazine publishing.
Mm.
So we have constant deadlines, weekly magazines every week,
Mm.
monthlies every month, and then the bi-monthlies, there are so many deadlines and I have to meet them. And so I kind of almost naturally respond to that. Um, but I try not to leave everything to the last minute. Obviously, I don't like to kind of be writing right up to a deadline. So
Yeah.
I kind of have to give myself a schedule and hope that I stick to it.
Yeah.
Um, it is hard though, and I think, and the trouble is now as well, I feel like I've actually got, I coincidentally and brilliantly, one of my short stories was also in one of the magazines, in Women magazine, not that long ago. I think it was last week actually, out around the same time the
I
book came
haven't.
out.
Oh, I need
So
to
that
buy
was
it.
really handy.
I'm going to after this. I'm going to go to the local newsagent and buy it. I said this
Uh,
last time a week or so ago, so I think
oh
it's
no,
still
that's fine.
there.
No, that I
No,
wasn't
I'd
dropping
like
hints, I
to.
promise.
I'd like to
No, I was just
because I
saying,
love
so I
short stories.
oh
Because my day
bless
job
you.
is editing novels. I'll write it down. I am going to go and get it.
Well,
Um,
you might, to be honest, you might have missed it actually because I think it comes out again today. So you might have missed last week's. But
oh,
if you have, I'll send you a PDF of it if you want to see it.
oh, that'd be great.
But
Okay. Yes,
yeah, it's
I'm going to have a look.
I feel like, I then feel really like I'm trying to overachieve. So I'm trying to write the sequel. I'm
Mm,
obviously promoting this one.
yeah.
I want to write more short stories. I want to write extra content so I can then, basically give readers more information, more
Yeah,
things about
reader
Cassie and
magnets
Tom.
and
So
newsletter
yes, exactly.
and
Yeah,
things like
I
that.
want
It's
to do
always,
all the things, and
yeah,
there's just not enough time in the day.
no.
So, but it's great, it's a good problem to have, and
Mm,
I'm just so happy to be able to to find the thing that I love doing, because I know not everyone always manages to do that, and I thought maybe my time had passed and I'd left it too late to do
no.
it. So I definitely haven't, and I'm
Mary
really
Wes
pleased.
Mary Wesley was 74 when she had her first book published. So
Fantastic.
it's never too. And there are
Yeah,
people every now and then you see a lady who's just turned 100 and she's there with her book,
amazing.
and men into their 90s, and really uh,
No.
there's no time limit. Speaking of time limits, do you have a deadline for book two? Have you set yourself a book two? When do you? Because obviously you've built the momentum for this one, and readers can read it in a weekend and go, great. When's the next one out?
Yes, I would really love, in an ideal world, I would have finished writing it like first draft wise by the end of this year,
Right.
which is probably a bit too long. So maybe if it could be before the end of this year, that would be good. But
Mm,
ideally, I'd want to get it out probably by spring.
yeah.
So I'm looking at early next year, maybe March time, something like that. I would like to get it out because it's not a I mean, I don't believe in having to leave summer books for summer, but clearly, this is, I want people to take this away on holiday. I want them to put it
Mm,
in their beach bag.
yeah.
I would put it in my beach bag, it's perfect for that. But
Mm.
the next one isn't going to be as geared towards summer. So it would be, it definitely can come out at a different time of year is the point.
And
So
also, you've got to
I'm,
fit in with Chris's schedule to a point because you're in the
yes, of
indie
course,
publisher to fit in.
absolutely.
So, has he given you a deadline? Has he said,
As soon as possible.
right? Yeah, to
He's happy.
piggyback
Yeah.
on this one.
Yes,
Yes.
he's like, come on, clock's ticking, let's get on with it. So yeah, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we're trying to sort of, yeah, I mean, I want to get it out as soon as possible as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just need to devote the proper solid time to it, which I'll be able to do. Yeah, hopefully I'll have a bit of time over the summer now the kids are off school and things like that. So
And also, you're busy promoting this one. So,
yes, yes,
well,
exactly. Yes.
I did decide, although it's gone to pot really the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, to spend, and I like to go to bed early and get up early. So if I could go to bed at 9 and get up at 4 or 5, that would be great. Be at my desk. And the plan is to write until 12. And then, so Monday, we have Monday mini fests at 12. And then starting from September, I've pushed it a bit, the Wednesday whips, so the work in progress, where it's a closed session, not recorded, and then up to 4 of us can read out our works in progress and get feedback from it. So there are 2 1.5 hour sessions every Wednesday from I think it's the first Wednesday in September, 4th or 5th, something like that. And so I never book anything before 12 o'clock, so that I've then got a chance to write then. But I'm only working to a novelist's deadline, and there are other things obviously that crop up that I'm asked to do, and they say what needs to be done by. But generally, I've set when a book comes in, I have 3 weeks to do the first set of sweeps, and then it goes back. So if I try to do that fairly quickly so that I get it back early, and then they've got until 2 weeks plus if I'm early, a few days early, and then so
Mm.
then I know I've got the 2 weeks. But they have tended to be overlapping too much recently. So September's probably, with the advent of Christmas, for those self-publishing, probably not a good time to space my work out because people want to publish their books by Christmas. But we'll see. So yes, I try to do the mornings, and then I
Yeah.
can. And there's a thing called morning pages, where it's a sort of almost a movement to write at some point in the morning. Then it's done, and then
Mm.
you can crack on with your day. But when you
Well,
have a day
that's
job, it's not that. not as
Well,
easy.
that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I'm definitely a morning person in terms of writing. I would
Mm.
happily get up really early and write, and I do that at the weekend sometimes when I can, when we haven't got things booked in for the kids and stuff like that. But I yeah, I mean, I like I've said before, I have to kind of just fit it in when I can. So I currently write here, there, and everywhere, like in terms of the hours I keep.
Yeah.
I write on the train when I go into work. So I write on my phone quite a lot, and then I'll basically copy and paste it, and then, put it into a Word doc and then work on it, or a Google Doc. There are so many versions of things everywhere, and then I have
Right.
to basically put them, jigsaw them
Yeah.
together and go, all right, this scene I've written over here, that can go there.
Right.
I mean, I don't write out of order that much because I tend to kind of need to see it in order. But then if I have a really clear idea about something that I know is going to happen later on,
Yeah.
and I suddenly have a spark of inspiration, I'll write the scene, and then I'll know at least I've got that in the bank. So that's there waiting to slot in.
Yeah.
So, but
We,
yeah, trying to cram it in. If I didn't, if I had time, I reckon I could finish this in a couple of months, the
okay.
second one. So yeah,
There we
because
go. There's your deadline. End of September.
ah!
You heard it. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
Ah!
Um, we've talked about your main two characters and their sidekicks, their friends. Have you got? I won't ask. Oh yeah, go on. I'd like to ask you your question. Um, it's like saying, who is your favourite child? Who is do you, who is do you have a favourite character in book one? Is there maybe a minor character? Because I know book two is going to be about different characters. Book two are the characters in book one, presumably. Are
Yes, they
they?
are. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
do you have a minor character that you really love?
Yes. In a word, I mean, I love both my main characters, and I'll always love them because they were my first characters that I thought of, and they are the backbone of the book. So of
Sure.
course I love them both.
Yeah.
But my favorite character, I think, has to be Cassie's best friend, Sophia, who actually featured in the excerpt that I
Yeah.
read just then.
Yeah.
She is a life force, and she is someone who doesn't ever pull any punches and is brutally direct, and is someone that is so, like, once she's on your side for life. But she is incredibly hard to kind of get to know. So, but it's worth it because for the absolute,
Yeah.
loyalty that she shows once you,
Okay.
penetrate those spiky walls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she is basically the first line of defense for Cassie. So if anyone does Cassie wrong, then she will have words with them about it, in not uncertain terms.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's incredibly, I just think she's brilliant. She is someone I enjoy writing, and she's quite freeing to write as well, actually,
Right.
because she kind of says all the things that you wish you could say and
I was
do.
thinking that when you said that about just being very direct and how
Yeah.
we would want to be. There's a book I read. I think I read it because Katie Ford was going to be. I used to be one of the. I used to be in Northampton Writers Group, and they ran back in the day. They don't do it anymore. H.E. Bates short story competition. And one of our judges one year was, because I know Sue Moorcroft, and I think Sue Moorcroft had
Ah,
done it, and then Sue knew Katie Ford. So by kind of default, we then got Katie Ford to be our head judge. And so I read one of her books ahead of meeting her, and it was called Love Letters. So it was based at a literary festival and a bookshop, and so it was sort of my thing. And I can't even remember the main character's name, but I loved her best friend called Monica. And so when I met Katie, I said, oh, I really loved Love Letters, especially Monica. Do you think you might do a book? Could you bring her in as a main character? And she said, I loved her as well. So I don't know whether she ever did, because I don't read books other than for work, really, other than love short story collections. But I have a character in After Jessica, the top one there, called Rick, who is a sort of a handy man, for a guy, very well connected chap called Daniel. And there's one scene where he goes into Jessica's house and she's not there, and he's looking for something that she's taken. And he's opening drawers and shutting them and not leaving any idea that he's been there, except for an upside down book in a sink, in a dry sink. So I don't want to upset any readers by making it a wet sink, a dry sink. He takes a book from the bookshelf, leaves it like that in the sink. So there's no evidence that he's been there other than that. And he features more than that, but not hugely. And I had great fun with him. And I did actually have somebody write to me and said, what happens? When's the next one coming out? And it was kind of left that there isn't one because it is a standalone, that you just think life's okay thereafter. But I'd really like to do something with him. So I think it's nice if we have these sub characters who then get more space in future.
Yeah, well, she features incredibly heavily in the sequel. So yeah,
Good.
I mean, she kind of came to life in my head, and I realized that she absolutely had more to say, and
Yeah.
I wanted to build more of a existence and a life for her. I wanted
Excellent.
her to be better known. So yeah, so she is, yeah, she's the focal point, one of the focal points of the sequel. So
well, I look forward to the end of September, you emailing me and saying, finished my book.
yeah.
And then in the spring, for it coming out. And we're doing this all over again for book number 2. Would be fabulous.
Fantastic.
But thank you. Thank you so much, Susannah.
Thank
And
you for
we'll
having
see you
me.
soon.
Thank you
Hopefully
so
a guest
much.
on one of the topics and in the chat at least. Thank you.
That'd be wonderful. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Morgan. I
You're
appreciate you having me.
very welcome.